My beloved brothers and sisters, every single one of us will face difficulties in life. Sometimes it's loss, sometimes it's heartbreak, sometimes it's failure, and sometimes it's tests that no one else can even see. And when we go through them, our first question is often, why me? But the reality is your hard times are not meaningless. They are not there to destroy you. They are there to build you, to strengthen you, and to bring you closer to Allah Almighty. When you look at the lives of the prophets, peace be upon them all, they were the most beloved to Allah. Yet they went through the greatest hardships. Why? Because through those hardships, their ranks were raised, their faith was perfected, and their stories became guidance for us today. Every hardship is a divine classroom where Allah teaches you lessons that you could never learn in comfort. If you think carefully, you will realize that when life is smooth and everything is going well, the heart becomes relaxed. It does not think deeply. It does not question much, and it often forgets to turn sincerely to Allah. But when hardship strikes, suddenly the heart wakes up. Suddenly you find yourself crying in sujood, raising your hands in dua, and speaking to Allah in ways you never did before. That is the wisdom of hardship. It is not there to destroy you, but to teach you something so valuable that no book, no lecture, and no wealth could ever teach. Consider the way a child learns. A teacher cannot always give sweets and toys and expect the child to become educated. There must be lessons, challenges, and even moments of discipline. Only then does the child grow in knowledge and understanding. In the same way, Allah places you in His divine classroom. The blackboard is your life, and the lessons are written through the experiences you go through. When you lose something you love, you learn the lesson of detachment and reliance upon Allah. When you go through illness, you learn the lesson of gratitude for health and patience in difficulty. When you are betrayed, you learn the lesson of placing trust only where it belongs. Every single hardship carries within it a curriculum designed for your soul. Many people say, I wish I never went through that. But if you ask them years later, they admit that the trial changed them for the better. It made them wiser, more patient, more compassionate. It removed arrogance, pride, and heedlessness from their hearts. This shows us that hardship is not random. It is purposeful. It is Allah's way of teaching you through life itself. And the beauty is, no two people are given the exact same lesson. Your trial is unique to you because your weaknesses, your strengths, and your potential are unique. Just as a teacher gives each student what they need, Allah gives each servant the tests that will shape them in the best way. Think also of how we value ease only after struggle. If you never faced financial hardship, you would never appreciate the blessing of a full plate of food. If you never felt loneliness, you would never value the comfort of companionship. If you never faced failure, you would not savor the sweetness of success. The hardship is what makes the blessing meaningful, and that is part of the divine wisdom. So whenever you are placed in difficulty, remind yourself that you are in Allah's classroom. The lesson may be patience, humility, gratitude, or strength. And just like in any classroom, if you pass the test, you move to the next level. Your soul is promoted, your heart is polished, and your faith is elevated. This is why every hardship should not only be endured, but also reflected upon, because hidden inside is a lesson meant only for you. Pain is not always punishment. And this is something many of us struggle to understand when life becomes heavy. The human heart naturally asks, oh, why is this happening to me? Did I do something wrong? Is Allah angry with me? But the reality is not every difficulty is a sign of Allah's displeasure. Sometimes it is the exact opposite. Pain can be a gift, a means of purification, and a sign of Allah's mercy. Because through that pain, your sins are wiped away, your heart is softened, and your soul is elevated. When a believer falls sick, every moment of discomfort becomes a means of forgiveness. Every second spent on a hospital bed can be erasing sins and raising ranks in the sight of Allah. A headache, a sleepless night, a tear shed in loneliness, none of it goes unnoticed. The Prophet Muhammad lettereth, even the prick of a thorn is recorded as a means of purification for the believer. So how can we then say pain is always punishment? If anything, it is a hidden blessing, although in the moment it feels bitter. Look at life from a different perspective. Look at life from a different perspective. When Allah removes something from you, a friend, a job, a relationship, a dream, it may hurt deeply. But what if that thing would have harmed you in ways you could not see? Imagine a child reaching for a sharp knife. The mother snatches it away and the child cries, thinking he has been wronged. In reality, the mother has saved him. That is exactly how our relationship with Allah works. What feels like loss to us may actually be protection in disguise. The pain we feel is not a punishment but a shield saving us from greater harm. Pain also reshapes the heart. Without it, arrogance grows. When life is always easy, people begin to believe they are in control, that they do not need Allah. But when pain enters, it breaks that illusion. It humbles the soul, makes the eyes shed tears, and reminds us of our utter dependence on the Creator. This humility is a mercy because a proud heart cannot enter paradise, but a broken heart that turns to Allah is beloved to Him. Even the prophets who were the most beloved to Allah went through immense pain. Was it punishment? Never. It was purification, elevation, and preparation for their great missions. Prophet Ayub lost his health and wealth, yet through his patience he became a symbol of steadfastness. Prophet Yusuf endured betrayal and imprisonment, yet his pain positioned him for leadership and honor. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad buried his children, faced rejection, hunger, and battles, yet his pain became part of his greatness. So the next time pain visits you, do not rush to think it is Allah's anger. Instead, see it as a moment of cleansing, a chance to rise, a push toward humility and closeness to Allah. Pain is not always punishment. Often, it is the way Allah purifies His servant, loves His servant, and guides His servant back to Him. Without darkness, you will never appreciate the light. This is a truth that life teaches us again and again, but we often fail to recognize it when we are in the middle of a trial. Darkness in this sense represents hardship, loss, grief, or struggle, while light represents ease, joy, comfort, and blessings. If life was only ease, we would not know how to value it. If there were no night, the day would be taken for granted. If there was no hunger, the sweetness of food would not be felt. If there was no sadness, the beauty of happiness would never be appreciated. Hardship and ease go hand in hand, and together they teach the soul to be grateful, humble, and wise. Think about health, for example. A person who has never fallen sick often overlooks the gift of a healthy body. They eat, walk, sleep, and move without ever realizing that every heartbeat is a blessing. But when illness strikes, suddenly every simple act becomes a struggle. A breath without pain, a meal without nausea, or a night of uninterrupted sleep feels like gold. And when health returns, the person appreciates it in a way they never did before. That is the power of darkness. It makes the light valuable. The same applies to wealth. Someone who has never experienced poverty may not truly understand the value of money, food, or shelter. But the person who has gone hungry even once, who has struggled to pay rent, who has felt the humiliation of asking for help, that person knows the worth of every small provision. When Allah then blesses them with sustenance, their gratitude is sincere because they have tasted the opposite. Darkness was the teacher that made the light meaningful. On a deeper level, darkness also shapes character. Hardship builds qualities like patience, resilience, and compassion. A person who has walked through grief can comfort others in grief with genuine empathy. A person who has struggled in loneliness can sit with the lonely and make them feel seen. The darkness of their own struggles teaches them to value the light they later experience and to become a source of light for others as well. Without trials, hearts would be hard. Without pain, souls would be arrogant. Darkness softens the human being and allows them to see blessings they once ignored. The Quran reminds us that with hardship comes ease, not after hardship, but with it. That means even in the darkest of tunnels, light is already present, though we may not see it immediately. Sometimes the light comes in the form of lessons learned, sins forgiven, or hearts humbled. Sometimes it comes later, when Allah replaces what was lost with something far better. But either way, the darkness you endure is never empty. It is filled with wisdom, and it prepares you to value the ease that is to come. Imagine if life was always bright, always smooth, always perfect. Would we even remember Allah? Would we ever cry to Him, beg Him, or seek Him? It is in the nights of hardship that deel becomes sincere. It is in the days of loss that prayer becomes heartfelt. Darkness drives us back to the source of all light. It pushes us closer to Allah and reminds us that true comfort is only with Him. So when you face a dark season in life, do not despair. Know that one day the dawn will come, and when it does, you will see its beauty with new eyes. You will appreciate blessings in a way you never did before. And perhaps most importantly, you will realize that the darkness was never there to break you. It was there to teach you how to treasure the light. Allah tests those He loves most, and this is a concept that may seem difficult at first glance. In our human minds, we connect love with comfort, protection, and ease. When we love someone, we try to shield them from pain. So we wonder, if Allah loves us, why does He allow us to feel sadness, loss, or trials? The answer is that divine love is not like human love. Human love is temporary and limited, but Allah's love is eternal and purposeful. When Allah loves someone, He wants them to grow, to be purified, and to reach the highest possible level in both this world and the hereafter. And the process of reaching that level often involves being tested. If you look at the lives of the prophets, you will see this truth clearly. Prophet Ibrahim was thrown into a fire by his own people, yet Allah saved him and made him the father of nations. Prophet Musa had to flee from Egypt, live in exile, and return to face Pharaoh, yet Allah chose him to deliver His message. Prophet Yusuf was betrayed by his brothers, sold as a slave, and imprisoned unjustly, yet Allah raised him to a position of honor and leadership. Prophet Ayub lost his health, his wealth, and his children, yet through his patience he became an example of steadfastness for all time. And our beloved Prophet Muhammad, the most beloved to Allah, endured hunger, battles, the loss of his parents and children, rejection by his own tribe, and the pain of seeing his companions persecuted. Were these punishments? Absolutely not. They were a sign of Allah's love, because with each hardship came elevation, strength, and closeness to Him. This shows us that tests are not an indication of weakness or rejection, but rather of selection. Allah chooses to test those He loves because He wants to raise them above the ordinary. Just as gold must go through fire to be purified, the believer's heart must go through trials to remove arrogance, sin, and attachment to this temporary world. The greater the test, the greater the rank that awaits if one remains patient. That is why the Prophet later said, the greatest reward comes with the greatest trial. And when Allah loves a people, He tests them. Another wisdom in being tested is that hardship turns the heart back to Allah. When everything in life is smooth, people can easily forget their Creator. But when difficulty strikes, suddenly prayers become longer, does become sincere, and the heart becomes humble. This is a mercy, because what use is an easy life if it ends in heedlessness? Better a hard life that brings you close to Allah than a life of comfort that leads you away from Him. Tests also serve as preparation. Sometimes Allah places you in hardship today because He knows tomorrow you will need the strength, wisdom, and resilience that only this trial can teach you. Just as a soldier trains in difficult conditions before entering battle, the believer is trained through hardship before being entrusted with greater responsibilities or blessings. So when you face trials, do not think Allah has abandoned you. Think instead that Allah loves you enough to refine you, to cleanse you, and to prepare you for something greater. Your test is not a sign of rejection, but of divine care. And if you endure with patience, what awaits you is not only ease in this world, but also eternal reward in the next. This is the love of Allah, a love that tests, purifies, and elevates. What you lost was never meant for you, and what was meant for you will never miss you. This is one of the most powerful truths of faith, but also one of the hardest to accept when our hearts are hurting, As human beings, we become deeply attached to people, opportunities, wealth, and dreams. We plan our lives, we imagine certain outcomes, and we hope for specific results. When something we wanted slips away, when someone leaves us, or when a door closes in our face, the pain feels unbearable. We cry, we question, and sometimes we even wonder why Allah allowed it. But faith teaches us to look beyond the moment and to trust in the decree of Allah, because nothing is lost except what was never written for you in the first place. Before you were even born, Allah wrote your provision, your lifespan, your successes, and your losses. Everything that reaches you and everything that misses you is already written in your qadar. When something leaves your life, it is not because you were unlucky or because someone else took it away. It is because Allah in His wisdom knew that it was not meant for you. Sometimes He removes things to protect you. Sometimes He delays things to prepare you. And sometimes He replaces them with something far greater than what you were holding on to. But in every case, His decision is better than yours because His knowledge is complete and yours is limited. Think of how many times in life people cried over something they lost, only to look back later and say, Alhamdulillah, it was a blessing in disguise. A broken engagement, a failed business, a rejected application, or a missed opportunity. At the time, it feels like the end of the world. But months or years later, the same person often realizes that losing it saved them from greater harm or opened the door to something much better. What you lost was never meant for you, and when it left, it created space for what truly belonged to you. Imagine holding a cup filled with dirty water. If you cling to it, there will be no space for clean, fresh water to be poured in. In the same way, if you hold too tightly to what Allah has taken away, you will not be ready to receive what He wants to give you. Loss is painful, but it is also cleansing. It teaches you not to rely too much on temporary things and to shift your heart's reliance back to the one who never leaves. People will come and go, wealth will rise and fall, and opportunities will open and close. But Allah remains. He is the one who provides, the one who protects, and the one who knows what is best for you. It is also important to remember that what is truly written for you will reach you no matter what. Even if the whole world tries to stop it, what Allah has decreed for you will never miss you. This should give you peace. You do not have to chase desperately after every opportunity or cling desperately to people who are leaving. You need only to put your trust in Allah, make your effort sincerely, and accept that the outcome is in His hands. If it is meant for you, it will come. If it is not, it will go. And its departure is a form of protection. So when loss visits you, allow yourself to grieve, but do not let despair take root. Remind yourself again and again, what left me was never mine, and what is mine will never leave me. This mindset frees the heart from bitterness and fills it with peace. It turns loss into acceptance and acceptance into gratitude. And when you live with this belief, you walk lighter in this world, because you know that Allah's plan is always more perfect than your own. Patience is not silence. Patience is trusting Allah while making effort. Too often, people misunderstand the concept of sabr, thinking it means to sit back, remain quiet, and do absolutely nothing until the situation changes. But real patience in Islam is not about passivity or weakness. It is about actively doing what you can while keeping your heart steady, hopeful, and connected to Allah. Patience means that you move forward, you make effort, you take action, but you do it without anger at Allah, without despair, and without losing your trust in His plan. Imagine a farmer planting seeds in the soil. He does not sit at home waiting for fruits to appear. He waters the plants, clears the weeds, and takes care of the crops. But he also knows that the rain and the growth come only from Allah. That balance between action and trust is the essence of sabr. A believer in hardship must do the same. If you are unemployed, patience is not sitting still and waiting for money to drop from the sky. Patience is applying for jobs, learning new skills, networking, and at the same time praying to Allah, asking for His help, and trusting that He will open the right door at the right time. Patience also shows in your attitude. When something goes wrong, you might feel frustrated or hurt, and that is normal. Even the prophets express grief. Prophet Yaqub wept for years over the loss of his son, but his grief did not make him complain against Allah. Instead, he said, "I only complain of my sorrow and grief to Allah." That is patience, allowing yourself to feel pain, but directing that pain towards Allah in prayer rather than in bitterness. It is not silence in the sense of suppressing emotion, but silence in the sense of avoiding complaints to people while pouring your heart out to your Lord. Another dimension of patience is controlling the tongue and actions. In moments of difficulty, it is easy to lash out, curse, or speak negatively. True patience is holding back harmful words and replacing them with words of faith. Alhamdulillah, Allah knows best. This does not mean denying your struggle, but it means protecting your heart from falling into despair. At the same time, your actions should reflect effort. If you are sick, patience is not refusing treatment. Patience is taking the medicine, visiting the doctor, making dua, and trusting Allah with the outcome. The hardest part of patience is accepting Allah's timing. As human beings, we are always in a hurry. We want immediate answers, instant solutions, and quick relief. But Allah's plan unfolds at the perfect pace. What you think is a delay is often a preparation. Patience means reminding yourself that Allah is never late, and that the ease He promised is already written, even if you cannot see it yet. Just as a seed takes time to grow into a tree, your prayers and efforts take time to bear fruit. Losing hope midway is like abandoning the crop before the harvest. Patience then is a form of strength. It is not weakness to endure. It is courage to keep walking when the road feels endless. It is faith to keep trying when success looks impossible. It is trust to keep praying when the answer has not yet arrived. When you combine effort with reliance, struggle with faith, hardship with hope, you are practicing the highest form of sabor. And Allah promises that He is with the patient. What greater comfort could there be than knowing that the Lord of the worlds is walking with you through your test? Your pain can be the source of someone else's healing, and this is one of the most beautiful ways Allah brings meaning to hardship. Often when we are going through a struggle, we think only of our own suffering. We wonder why we are being tested, why life feels so heavy, and why Allah has placed us in such a difficult situation. But with time, if we reflect deeply, we realize that our experiences have given us wisdom, empathy, and strength that we can use to help others. The very pain that once broke us can become the tool through which we uplift those who are broken. This is part of the divine wisdom behind trials. They do not only shape you for yourself, but they shape you to serve others. Think of a person who has battled loneliness. That person knows the sharp sting of being left out, the emptiness of sitting alone, and the ache of feeling unwanted. Later in life, when they see someone sitting quietly in a corner, their heart will naturally move to reach out. They will extend kindness, companionship, and reassurance because they recognize that pain. Someone who has never felt loneliness might overlook such a person, but the one who has been through it will not. Their pain becomes a gift because it makes them a source of healing for another. The same applies to grief. A person who has buried a loved one will understand the silent tears, the restless nights, and the heaviness in the chest. When they meet someone newly grieving, they will not offer empty words. They will offer genuine compassion. They will sit silently when needed, speak gently when words are required, and make dua with sincerity. Their experience of pain becomes a light guiding others through darkness. This is why sometimes Allah allows us to taste difficulties, so we can soften, so we can relate, and so we can become a means of mercy in the lives of others. Even the smallest trials can give you a deep well of empathy. The one who has known hunger will feed others with generosity. The one who has struggled financially will never belittle someone asking for help. The one who has felt rejected will embrace others without judgment. Every pain you endure, if you allow it, can mold you into a person who carries healing in their presence. This is a gift far greater than ease because it allows you to impact lives in ways comfort never could. And this is not only for others, it is for yourself too. When you help someone heal using the lessons of your own hardship, you heal further. You find meaning in your struggle. What once felt like a senseless burden now feels like a purposeful experience. You realize that perhaps Allah allowed you to walk through that valley so you could guide someone else out of it later. Your pain then was never wasted. It was transformed into wisdom, compassion, and strength. So the next time you face hardship, remember that it is not only shaping you for your own growth, but also for the serve others. Someone somewhere will one day need the comfort that only you can provide, because only you have walked the path they are walking. Your scars can speak where words cannot. Your tears can connect where logic fails. And your survival can inspire hope in those who feel like giving up. That is the beauty of hardship in the sight of Allah. It turns ordinary people into sources of extraordinary healing. Every hardship carries within it a hidden blessing, but often we are too blinded by the pain to see it. Human beings are naturally inclined to focus on what they have lost, on what is missing, and on what hurts. In those moments, it is easy to overlook the mercy, the growth, and the wisdom that Allah places inside every trial. Yet, if we train our hearts to look beyond the immediate pain, we begin to notice that difficulties come with gifts we may not have received in any other way. This is one of the greatest secrets of life. What feels like a burden today may prove to be a blessing tomorrow. Think of someone who loses their job. At first, the shock and worry consume them. They wonder how they will provide for their family, how they will survive. But in the midst of that struggle, perhaps they discover a new skill, start a business, or find a job they never imagined that suits them far better than the one they lost. Later, they look back and realize that what they thought was the worst moment of their life was actually the door to something greater. The blessing was hidden behind the hardship. Consider also the way pain draws us closer to Allah. When life is comfortable, people often become heedless. become heedless. They may pray, but without depth. They may remember Allah, but not with true humility. Yet when hardship strikes, the heart softens, tears flow, and do become sincere. In that moment of brokenness, a person discovers the sweetness of turning to Allah in a way they may never have known without the hardship. Is that not a blessing? To taste closeness to your Creator. Many people will admit that the most difficult times of their lives were also the moments when their faith became strongest. The blessing is hidden in the pain. Hardship also reveals who truly cares about you. In times of ease, everyone is smiling around you. But when trials arrive, masks fall away. Some people distance themselves while others stay and support you with love and sincerity. Without the hardship, you might never have known the difference between genuine companions and fair weather friends. The pain of loss exposes the treasure of loyalty, and that in itself is a blessing. Furthermore, difficulties shape character in ways comfort cannot. A child who never falls never learns to walk properly. A person who never faces obstacles never learns resilience. When life tests you, it forces you to grow, to stretch, and to rise. Without the storm, the tree's roots would never dig deep into the earth. In the same way, without trials, your faith and character would remain shallow. The blessing of hardship is that it strengthens you in ways you could never achieve in ease. Sometimes the blessing is not even for you directly, but for others. Allah may place you in a situation so that others learn from your patience, your perseverance, or your recovery. Your hardship might inspire someone else to remain steadfast in their own struggles. You may never know the impact you had, but on the day of judgment, you will see the reward of being the reason someone else did not give up hope. So, while it is natural to feel the weight of hardship, remind yourself that every test carries a hidden mercy. You may not see it immediately, but with time, reflection, and faith, it becomes clear. The believer trusts that Allah does not decree anything in vain. Every difficulty is either erasing sins, elevating status, teaching a lesson, or opening a new door. And when you live with this belief, your heart begins to find peace even in struggle, because you know that somewhere inside this hardship, there is a blessing waiting to be discovered. Every storm eventually runs out of rain. And no matter how heavy the clouds appear above you, they will clear with the permission of Allah. This is one of the most comforting truths a believer can hold on to during hardship. Nothing in this world lasts forever. Just as joy and ease are temporary, so too are pain and trials. The night may feel endless when you are sitting in darkness, but the sun always rises. Hardship is the same. Allah reminds us in the Quran, eyes us in the Quran, verily, with hardship comes ease. Notice that Allah does not say after hardship, but with hardship. This means that even as you suffer, relief is already on its way. It may not come in the form or timing you expect, but it is certain because Allah's promise never fails. When we are caught in the middle of a storm, it feels as though it will never end. Our minds imagine the worst and our hearts sink with despair. Yet history and our own lives are proof that no difficulty has remained forever. The grief that once brought you to tears eventually softened. The pain that once felt unbearable eventually eased. The loss that shattered you slowly healed. You are still here despite thinking you would not survive those earlier storms. That in itself is evidence that what you are facing now will also pass. Just as the clouds shift and the rain stops, so too will your hardship give way to relief. One of the wisdoms of trials is that they teach us the temporary nature of this world. Nothing is permanent. Not happiness, not sorrow, not success, not failure. This realization helps us to avoid arrogance in moments of ease and to avoid despair in moments of struggle. If joy can fade, then hardship can fade too. If one door closed, another can open. Life is always moving, always changing, and Allah is always in control. This constant cycle is meant to keep our hearts attached to Him rather than to fleeting circumstances. Storms also bring hidden benefits. Rain may seem destructive when it floods and disrupts, but without it, the earth would remain barren. Similarly, hardships may shake your life, but they water your soul. They cleanse you of arrogance, they wash away your sins, and they nurture the seeds of patience and reliance on Allah. When the storm ends, you find yourself stronger, purer, and closer to your Creator. The storm was not only temporary, but transformative. Sometimes Allah allows prolonged trials not to punish, but to refine. If the storm ended too quickly, you might not have learned what you needed to learn. Just as a plant needs sustained rain to grow roots, your heart sometimes needs sustained struggle to grow faith. When the trial has fulfilled its purpose, Allah will remove it. And when He does, the relief will be so sweet that you will look back and realize that the storm was necessary for your growth. This knowledge should fill the believer with hope. No matter how overwhelming life feels right now, remind yourself, it will not last. It will not last. Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. Every hardship comes with its expiry date, written before it even reached you. The clouds are heavy now, but they are already moving, already dispersing. Relief is closer than you think, so hold on. Hold on to your prayers, your patience, your hope. Do not let despair convince you that the storm defines your life. It is only a chapter, not the whole story. And when the rain finally stops and the sky is clear, you will see how Allah carried you through. You will see how He protected you, how He strengthened you, and how He replaced your tears with joy. Every storm ends, and with Allah, you will always emerge stronger than before. Hardship is not the end of your story, but the beginning of a greater chapter. Too often when people face trials, they assume that their lives are ruined, that their dreams are destroyed, or that they will never recover. The weight of pain can convince them that the future holds nothing but darkness. But in reality, hardship is often the doorway to new opportunities, to growth, and to blessings that you could not have imagined. Allah never closes one door without opening another. And sometimes the trial you thought was your ending is actually the very event that redirects you to something far better. Think of the stories of the prophets. When Prophet Yusuf was thrown into the well by his brothers, it seemed like the end of his story as a beloved son. When he was sold into slavery, it seemed like the end of his dignity. When he was unjustly imprisoned, it seemed like the end of his future. Yet in truth, each of those hardships was shaping him for something greater. The well prepared him for loneliness, slavery taught him resilience, and prison strengthened his character. None of those difficulties were the end. They were the stepping stones to becoming a ruler of Egypt and a savior for his people. What looked like endings were actually beginnings. The same is true in our own lives. You may lose a job and think your career is over, only to find that the loss pushes you towards starting your own business or pursuing a passion that brings you more success and fulfillment than you ever imagined. You may face heartbreak and believe your happiness is gone forever, only to later realize that Allah was protecting you from someone unworthy and preparing you for a relationship built on love, respect, and faith. You may endure sickness and think it has stolen your strength, only to discover that it deepened your reliance on Allah, softened your heart, and inspired others through your perseverance. Hardship feels like the end in the moment, but with time and faith, it often proves to be the beginning of something better. One of the greatest mistakes we make during trials is believing that our current situation defines our entire future. But the believer understands that Allah is the best of planners. He sees what we cannot see, and He knows what we cannot know. The path He writes for us is filled with wisdom, even when it is paved with pain. When you remember this, you stop seeing hardship as a final chapter and start viewing it as part of a larger story. One that is still unfolding, one that is leading you closer to Allah, and one that will ultimately end in paradise if you remain steadfast. This mindset transforms how you face challenges. Instead of despairing, you begin to search for the lessons. Instead of giving up, you start to hold on tighter to your faith. You remind yourself that today's tears can become tomorrow's strength, and today's struggle can become tomorrow's success. And today's struggle can become tomorrow's success. Hardship is not meant to break you, but to shape you. It is the preparation, not the conclusion. So when you find yourself at a point in life where everything feels lost, remember, this is not your ending. It is simply Allah turning the page to a new chapter, one that may carry more blessings, more growth, and more beauty than the previous one. Your story is still being written, and with Allah as your author, every hardship is only a step towards a better tomorrow. The end of one path is always the beginning of another. And for the believer, every path ultimately leads to Allah, the source of all hope, healing, and eternal joy. One of the greatest purposes of hardship is that it reveals to you who your Lord truly is. When life is smooth and comfortable, many people think of Allah only in theory. They acknowledge His existence. They might pray out of habit, but they have not yet tasted the reality of His mercy, His power, and His closeness. But when life strikes with difficulty, when everything you relied upon crumbles, you are left with no one except Allah. And it is in that moment that your heart discovers His presence in the most profound way. When you fall sick and no medicine seems to cure you, it is then that you learn that Ash-Shafi, the healer, is Allah alone. When your wealth is lost, your job disappears, or your business fails, it is then that you realize that true provision comes only from Ar-Razak, the provider. When people turn their backs on you, betray you, or abandon you, it is then that you discover Al-Wali, the protecting friend who never leaves your side. And when your sins weigh heavily upon you and you feel unworthy of forgiveness, it is then that you experience the reality of Al-Ghafur, the most forgiving who wipes away mistakes no matter how many. This is why Allah sometimes allows hardship to touch our lives, so that we stop attaching ourselves to the creation and instead attach ourselves to the Creator. Without the trial, many of us would never have raised our hands in dua with tears streaming down our faces. Without the struggle, we may never have prayed sincerely at night. Without the pain, we may never have felt the sweetness of turning back to Allah with a broken heart, knowing that He alone can mend it. Hardship, then, becomes a gateway to knowing Allah intimately. And when you know Allah in this way, you carry a strength that no difficulty can destroy. The one who knows that Allah is near will never truly feel abandoned. The one who knows that Allah is in control will never despair, even when everything seems out of control. The one who knows that Allah's mercy outweighs His wrath will never lose hope, no matter how heavy their sins or struggles may be. The lives of the prophets are the clearest examples of this truth. Prophet Yunus in the belly of the whale discovered the nearness of Allah in his darkest hour. Prophet Musa, standing before the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army behind him, learned the reality of Allah's power when the sea split before his eyes. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad Safa maturing Hara experienced Allah's protection when his enemies were just steps away. In each of these stories, the trial was the key that unlocked a deeper knowledge of Allah. Your own life works in the same way. Every hardship you face is an invitation to discover one of Allah's names, one of His attributes, one of His mercies. The test pushes you closer, strips away illusions, and allows you to taste the reality of His presence. And once you taste it, you will never want to let go. So instead of seeing hardship only as a punishment or a burden, start viewing it as a teacher that introduces you to your Lord in ways comfort never could. The pain may break your heart, but through that brokenness, you will meet Allah with sincerity, humility, and hope. And once you truly know Allah, you realize that every hardship was worth it, because nothing compares to the sweetness of nearness to Him.